Okay? The focus must stay on off-self and on others. Okay? Off-self and on others. Okay?
Brad, what?
And talk about subordinate your something for your purpose. Your purpose is to keep it. Now, eventually in that conversation, Chris, I didn't let you say something earlier.
No, that's not, I just wanted to ask, was that, you said listening for success?
Listening for success, yeah. It's Shapiro. Somebody Shapiro's the last name. And then he died, and his family took all the stuff on the market or something. But then somebody convinced him to put it back on the market. This is a years ago, but it's fantastic. And it's where I learned that I don't know how to listen. I realized I was not a good listener. I thought I was a good listener. I realized I didn't really understand rapport. I thought I was good at rapport. And this was, I've been in background for 10 years when I came across this thing, maybe more.
Steve Shapiro.
Steve Shapiro, that's his name. Can you find it? Is it available somewhere?
Amazon.
Amazon? No.
Paperback on Amazon.
There's a book. I didn't read the book. I just listened to it. But anyway, so off-self and on others. So that's where your conversation. You need to figure out how do you keep the conversation about that person and their story as long as possible before bringing up, after they completed their story. Then maybe you can talk about the fact that if you went to Brazil for 3 months and they're talking about they went to Brazil for a couple of weeks, well, you want to tell them about your experiences in Brazil. I mean, it's hard to not, right? But once you start to understand this type of thing and you listen to conversations that go on around other people, and if you try to pay attention, you'll see how much this happens. I mean, it's almost there's almost nothing else for people to talk about unless they want to say, oh, I had a friend once that did this, or I did this or I did that. I mean, you always hear about one-upping. It's kind of like one-upping, but we all do it to a degree, and it's probably way more than we think we do. Okay, who was it at the summit? Robbie? It was Bert Wicks, right? So he heard that used in the talk, and that night we went out to dinner. Lloyd Reagan, the region manager, was there, and Bert basically did this on Lloyd. Just basically let Lloyd talk. And the next day, Bert was glowing. He's like, "It was so awesome. I didn't say anything, man. I had a region manager in the palm of my hands. It was awesome." He was fired up, right? Lloyd had a couple of glasses of wine and a few other things, probably. But Bert was stoked.
He had wine?
Stoked about it.
Did you call him the raw Lloydster?
Nobody knows that story. You know the story? So here's an analogy that I've probably had half a dozen people from the Federal Summit say that their big takeaway from this message, because we didn't role play the conflict part, was the idea that you're a spotlight. You're not a mirror. You're not rebounding. It's not a back and forth. As a rapport builder, you are a spotlight on Matt. Okay, and you're in that conversation. You meet someone on an airplane. Practice it on an airplane. Practice it all the time. But see how long you can keep the conversation going about whatever it is that they're talking about, right? Of course, you started off by the 3 steps of the compliment. You give them a compliment, and then they get going about running. Jeff and I probably could have continued that conversation about running for as long as we had, because he has a history of that, right? So keep that conversation going, focused on the other person as long as you can, and then eventually, if you have something that's really relevant in a low-key, subtle way, how you could relate to something. Because if you've been in that Brazil story, it's just like I think about it all the time. Like, how could I not talk about when I was there for 3 months? But you want to keep the focus on the person as long as possible. Right? Here's what you got to tell yourself when you're wanting to tell your stuff. Right? My story is irrelevant. Okay, my story is irrelevant. I was out last night at Taco Tuesday. I was in friends from church, a little small group that we have a little Bible study group with, and I was thinking about this message today. I just sat there and really didn't talk hardly at all. But I just listened to people tell a little story. Oh yeah, my neighbor. Oh, one time my cousin. And it's just all people did was tell their own stories. And I don't know that anybody's really listening to anybody else's story. They're just waiting for the chance to tell their own story, right? You got to tell yourself that your story is relevant. Why? Because the goal is how we're making people feel, right? Back to Maya Angelou. People remember what we say we do. Okay, remember how we make them feel. Okay, does that make sense? We understand on the report. Anybody feel like that those little tips help them be a little bit better at just the whole idea of report? Okay, great. Let us. All right. Next level, language. There's 10 of these things, but I'm only talking about 4, okay, because I didn't know how long it was going to take. So next level language. So the first thing on language is precision and accuracy, okay? Now, I take this to an extreme that people think is probably ridiculous, but I want my reputation in life to be that if I say it, it's done. It's as good as gold. Right? I don't want to make any promises, which I don't make a lot of commitments, you know, because there's things that I don't know if I can commit to. And I take it to the farthest extreme, to the point of if, let's say some of you guys are flying home tomorrow, right? So let's say your flight schedule. You know what time your flight's supposed to arrive in Portland? James, are you flying back to Portland? What time?
12:07.
12:07. So if someone says, hey, what time's your flight get in? The answer James would probably give is, what? 12:07. But you know what? Maybe the plane doesn't get in at 12:07. And now your language wasn't precise. So I never say, my flight gets in at 12:07. I say, my flight is scheduled to arrive at 12:07. Because that is the most precise and accurate way I can say that. Does that make sense? Like I said, I'm taking it to an extreme, but if you'll apply that to just little things, okay? And a lot of people use superlatives, I think that's the word, like the word never. If I say the word never around my family, like, oh, you said never, because I don't like the word never, right? That never happens. Well, it just happened. You usually say that never happens right after something just happened. Does that make sense? Well, do you not understand the definition of never? Right? Or here's one, it's big. If my wife and I have never had a fight, we've never raised our voices at each other, but if it was ever going to happen, it's probably because I made fun of her or mocked her for using the word forever. Okay? Well, we haven't been there in forever. Maybe you don't know the definition of the word forever. Okay, because I know what they mean. It's a long time. Okay, so it's a long. But I was just listening last night to my friends. I probably heard people say something. Oh, we haven't seen them in forever. We haven't done that in forever. I probably heard that 10 times in a 30-minute conversation. But that's not. It's just not a true statement. Right now, you guys are like, dude, you're like, it's totally nitpicking. Yeah, I'm using these as extreme examples, though, so you'll understand how you might apply it to your own. Like never, for forever, always, so that always happens.
Literally.
Always? Or don't even get
That's
started.
a new word. I literally, now what you meant. Literally. Not literally, literally.
So, I don't know.
Drop a
I just try to be really precise, and I just think it's a more professional way to be, a more professional way to act, okay? And don't make commitments that you may or may not be able to fix, or be able to follow through on, and really think through, you know, if I can make it happen. Don Frieda was really big on precision in language, okay? Word choice, okay? The choice of certain words to use. There are some people that I listen to them talk, and usually it's related to vocabulary, okay? Having a stronger, wider, deeper vocabulary. Some people just, when they say things, it just sounds better than when other people say things. You know, does that make sense? And sometimes they can say it's just the way that they say it, the tone that they say it with. But word crafting is really important to me. Okay, I'll give you an example. I could come to Anastasia and say we were both single, and I wanted to make Anastasia like me, or I wanted to make an impression on her. I might say something like, "Your beauty can make time stand still." Right? It's kind of a nice little saying, right? It's old. I could turn to Matt and I could say the same thing in different words. Your face can stop a clock. I said exactly the same thing. But this one might give me a kiss on the cheek. This one might give me a slap on the face, right? You can say the same exact thing. Right? Leah, your eyes remind me of limpid pools, right? James, your eyes look like stagnant water. Same thing, but you're just using different words. And some people, when you say those, Sales will just craft their words better, and the more you read, the more you understand the English language, the more, and when you read, if you're, I heard one time, if you're reading a book and you read an entire page and there's not a single word that you didn't understand, then you probably should be reading something more advanced, right? You should have to, there should be things that you don't understand, you have to learn, okay? My son has an amazing vocabulary, I've learned. Some of you guys know my son. Hopefully you'll meet my son in Costa Rica too, man. I'm trying to plan that. We're going to take him on an advanced trip in September. But my son's autistic and he's not really very verbal. But we learned through a program, a spelling program. If you want to find something incredibly fascinating and blow your mind, go to YouTube and watch a documentary called Spellers. It's just called Spellers, and you will not even believe it. The level of intelligence. My son's 23 years old, and we found out just in the last few years that he is far more intelligent, far more emotionally mature than 95% of all 23-year-olds. But you would never know just by trying to communicate with him the way we normally communicate. But learning how to spell by touching a letterboard or by typing on an iPad and showing up typing on a keyboard and showing up on an iPad or something. His grasp of the English language is unbelievable. We had no idea. He uses words I don't know the answer to. Like he used the word a couple weeks ago, they ran a story and was answering some questions, and he used the word ameliorate. You know what the word ameliorate means? Okay, I didn't even know what that word meant.
I've never heard
right?
that word.
It means to improve upon. Okay? And he used it perfectly. They asked him a question, so what should they do in this situation? And his answer was they should probably ameliorate. That's what he typed out. They should probably ameliorate. And I was like, what the heck is going on here? How did he even know this word? You know, I mean, he didn't hear it from me. I have no idea, you know. And, you know, what's an antonym for average? Spectacular, you know. And he's got all these, anyway, it's unbelievable. But I don't know why I told you that story, but vocabulary. Okay, that's what I was trying to talk about. Maybe vocabulary is. So it's all about the word crafting. That was the point of the little jokes about fools and manipulation. I challenge you to work on becoming a master of words. Right? There's little things. I remember early on in my sales training, I want to say it's Tom Hopkins, maybe his book called How to Master the Art of Selling. I think it was you read on that. It's called Sell Like a Lion, Act Like a Lamb, Sell Like a Lion. I think that was the new version. He's really proud of this, like $40 or something. But I remember him talking about certain words that you want to try to avoid in sales, okay? And we don't teach this in Vector anymore. In fact, I've even heard the opposite taught, but I'm going to tell you some of the things, some words that you might use different words in your own vocabulary. Some of them are sales related, some of them are just life related, okay? First one I'll give you is signature. This was a sales related, okay? Back when we had paper order forms, okay? Sign here, right? You say sign here, what do people hear their whole life? Don't sign anything, right? With their kids, don't sign your life away. These are things that are associated with that. So how could you ask somebody to sign something without saying the word sign or put your signature here? John Hancock, way too salesman, okay? So
Autograph.
a finger squiggle, not pretty good. Better.
Autograph.
What did you say?
Your autograph.
Autograph is kind of a cool connotation a little bit. There's a couple of them that I like even better, okay? Authorize this. Ooh, I'm important to authorize something. Go to authorize it right here, okay? Or approve, you know, just all need your approval right here, right? People, they feel powerful to approve something. Does that make sense? So it's just a little, not that we don't sign things anymore very much, but it's just an example, okay? Here's a word that you're rarely going to hear me say unless I'm using it in an example like this, the word problem. You guys know the word that I substitute for the word problem? Challenge. The word challenge. I just substitute virtually any scenario. You know, well, what about math? What about math problem? Well, I call it a math challenge. Right? It's human nature to avoid a problem. It is also human nature to attack a challenge. Right? This is one of those things that's more important than how you talk to yourself than anything else. But you know. I'm not using that word problem. I can find very few instances where that word is better than using the word challenge, right? If I'm talking to a sales rep or if I'm talking to a client, what's the problem? In fact, saying what's the problem can be a very negative connotation in itself, okay? Seems like we've got a challenge here, Mrs. Smith. Let's talk it through, okay? That make sense? It's just a different choice of a word, okay? Guy. Hey, I'm gonna bring up to the stage a guy who you all really like or whatever. Just the word guy. I just don't like to use the word guy in very many instances. Right? I like to use the word. That's what I was thinking. I just prefer to use the word gentleman.
Bring up this mofo
Okay?
real quick.
I'm gonna bring a gentleman up to the stage, right? I just prefer to use that word, okay? The word gentleman over the word guy, okay? It's just a simple example, okay? A couple of other ones I had, struggle, okay? This is one, Robbie, I really wanted to, at the very end of the meeting, we went around the circle and people talked about things, and I heard the word come up at the federal meeting, struggle. I heard it come up probably 10 to maybe a dozen times. And people say, it's something I struggle with. I struggle with this, I struggle with that. You guys hear yourself saying it? I think it was mentioned once here today, the word struggle. But that word perks up my ears when people say the word struggle. I don't like to use the word struggle. Okay? I have a different word. I'm going to substitute that in almost every case, and it's wrestle. Okay? Because you don't really win a struggle, but you can win wrestling. Right? In a way, it kind of makes a game out of it. But it's more about how we're talking to ourselves in that case, another one. Okay? Does that make sense? You guys? You may not agree. And I hear people teach things that they, like, I'm not a fan of the word buy now bonus because it uses the word buy. Right? I was taught years ago, you don't say the word buy. Buying is the pain, owning is the pleasure. When you buy a set of Cutco, you never have to buy another set of knives again. When you own a set of Cutco, you never have to get knives again. Right? Owning is the pleasure. Right? So I was taught to substitute the word own. That's why I love it. That's why you still hear me refer to the first call special. Can anybody, if someone says, send you an email, okay, you need to respond to them to let you know that you got it, okay? You got it. There's one word in there that I think is a better choice of a word, a simple word that everybody knows, receive. I received your email. There's a completely different level of professionalism with the term, I received your email, and I got your email. Did you get that? Okay? And these are just examples of hundreds. There's hundreds of little things like this that if you really paid attention to what you're saying, and if you use Grammarly or ChatGPT, a lot of them will fix a lot of that stuff for you. It'll word things a lot, just a lot more eloquently, and you can say, make this more personal, you can make this more professional, you can tell it to do whatever you want, and Grammarly gives a lot of really great examples. But that's just one example that came to mind. There's the word buy, I talked about that one already. And prospect. I mean, you guys probably don't call your customers prospects, but Curtis likes to do the family program, right? But he doesn't say, hey, you're a prospect for the family program. He'll probably say you're a candidate for the family program, or you're eligible for the family program. You're qualified, right? And just learning how to just look at the way something's communicated. And don't just try to get the words out, but try to say, is there a way to make this sound better, more professional, more giving, anything like that? Okay. There's a lot to this, and there's a lot more little steps of the next level. This is next level connection part 1. But just keep in mind, if you will take your communication to the next level, you'll take your confidence to the next level, your rapport to the next level, and your language to the next level. You will find yourself taking yourself, your business, and your life also to